Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have a liftoff.
What's up, Doom Nation, and welcome back. You are listening to the Two Doom Men podcast. As always, it's Skaggs and yours truly, the Captain. We have another great episode today. What's going on, buddy?
Yeah, man, we're here. We're back. I made a real quick last-minute change to the tweets of the week while we were in the intro there. That was
nice.
Fun. Wait for that later. Yeah, we're back. Got a couple things to talk about today. The Cuomo brothers, we referenced this on the last episode, but the Cuomo brothers are back doing the rounds again. And Andrew Cuomo, the former governor of New York State, not a friend of ours.
No. We if you look back on a certain episode, we popped champagne when he was removed from office. Retired in disgrace. How should we put that? Yeah,
a little bit of all of the above, perhaps. Yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about him and some comments he made regarding his actions during COVID. Thought was interesting, and we cannot let go, unpunished or unchecked. Let's just put it that way. What Governor Cuomo?
We shall not forget.
Yes. You got a topic that you wanted to talk about as well.
Yes, we're going to talk a little bit about campaign season.
Yeah, that's always interesting. It is a really interesting campaign season.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah. The LP convention getting into the mix, RFK. It's all very interesting.
Yeah.
And then the final topic, we're going to just have some fun and talk about the roast of Tom Brady and kind of the state of comedy and all that stuff. I thought it was fucking great.
Did you watch the roast?
I did, actually.
Yeah.
I watched like 40 minutes of it, and then the Northern Lights thing happened, and I got distracted and went outside and looked at them, and then I never got a chance to finish it.
Also, if anybody realized who lives in the Northeast, on Friday, I couldn't see him Saturday and Sunday. If through your camera's phone, you could see the Northern Lights. That was crazy.
Yeah, there was. I'm sure Garrett cooked up like 50 different conspiracy
on how the Earth is flat. Yeah,
or some, what it had to do with. Yeah, it was probably like Antarctica. They're shooting the Harper machine or whatever it is.
Yeah. And what was funny too was like when you took pictures, it came out pink, and when I took pictures, it came out like purple.
Yeah. Well, it's the Northern Lights. It's not all exactly the same ever. I'm a little bit further north than you. And I have a little bit less light pollution.
Oh, you had way less,
than you do down there in lower Connecticut. So it was fun. It was really interesting, man. I was saying in our text, I was like, man, we're living in like biblical times. Earthquake, eclipse, and now the Northern Lights, all within like a month or two of each other. So I don't know what that means.
Hey, I'm ready for the end times. Let's go. Yeah.
All right, let's jump right into it. Because got Governor Cuomo here. We actually made a clip of this and shared. Like I said, it cannot let things like this go unanswered. So Cuomo, Andrew Cuomo, that is. A lot of people were making videos about Chris Cuomo this past week because he was on PBD's
I'm
show.
also gonna comment on, because we're not
I
gonna let. He was CNN, so we're not gonna let them off the hook either.
So I figured we focus on the guy who was actually in charge, right? Because it is like, you know, it's curious that they both did this at the same week.
Project Mockingbird.
Yeah. So I guess he goes on the Quake show. I've never heard of this before.
No.
And he's given an interview here. Let's see what he has to say.
I believe if government were to now say, we just made a finding that there's a new virus and everyone should do X, Y, and Z, the amount of compliance with X, Y, and Z would be much, much lower than it was at the beginning of COVID, because people do not trust the government, especially on this issue, the way they did at the beginning. And that would be a complicating factor, right? When you have people who just don't listen, because government had no capacity to enforce any of this. You must wear a mask. And people wore masks in New York. But if they said, I'm not wearing a mask, there was nothing I could do about it. You must close your private business. I won't. Well, there was nothing I could really do about it. It was really all voluntary, and it was extraordinary when you think about it, that society acted with that uniformity voluntarily, because I had no enforcement capacity. So you have a reduced trust in government.
Is it too early in the show on a live to be cursing yet?
Oh, I already cursed once, buddy. So.
This motherfucker. Are you out of your mind? Do you remember the threats that were going around? If you don't shut your business down, we will come and shut it down. Oh, you must wear them. They had nothing. The reason I'm so just emotional about this, the reason they are talking like this right now, the Cuomos, is because the American people are stupid. I say it all the time. We have the attention span of a adolescent goldfish. And they really believe people forgot what happened during COVID already. I really believe they forgot what happened during COVID. And, you know, Cuomo said something about, there's people that don't want to listen. Right, because of what took place the first time. We're not going, he's right in the sense saying that we don't trust the government. And he's right in saying that he had no authority to shut down a business or make you wear masks. But you made other people comply to it, and you made businesses comply to these unenforceable rules, and they enforce those rules on us. So just because he didn't get his hands dirty doesn't mean they're clean.
It's interesting because him and Chris Cuomo were both kind of doing the same routine where they're saying things you'd kind of agree with, and then trying to like retcon their position on COVID at the time. He's basically saying, I had no authority and it was all voluntary. And then, like you were saying before, people don't listen to government. Like me and you might hear them be like, yeah, of course. Right. You probably shouldn't trust government outright. It's interesting that that's how you come out of the gate. Cause I was actually going to ask you, one of the first things I was going to ask you is, you think that I know, like we could be like, oh yeah, it's Project Mockingbird, but do you think there was a discussion amongst the two of them? Like, hey, this week we're going on these shows. Maybe we should try and test the waters on if we can rehabilitate our image around COVID. That's like so broken by COVID, and see, like, let's float this out there and see if people kind of forgot about how awful we were and how instrumental both of these two guys were.
So, the government could get ready another pandemic before the election comes. I think they'll never admit it. We'll never have any evidence. We don't have any evidence. But I have to imagine if two brothers as famous as the two of them are and they're not Hollywood famous. So it's not like Chris Pratt and Chris Hemsworth talking about this. These were a massive political figure that considered himself the COVID czar. Remember when Cuomo was
homosexuals? People were
yeah. He was the king of COVID. He knew how to take on COVID, but he told you not to take ivermectin. And then on the other hand, you had the mouthpiece, the face of CNN, telling you we're going to kill grandmas if we don't stay 6 feet apart and wear masks. And I truly, in my gut, feel they had some type of a conversation. How did it go? I don't know. What was their point? Maybe to test the waters, like we're saying. But I mean, that's the part we have no evidence on.
They did the big brother, little brother routine during COVID, like while they were interviewing when he was, when Andrew was being interviewed by Chris. So I'm gonna be honest with you, like, I don't even think this is an Operation Mockingbird thing. I think this is an Operation Cuomo, Fredo, Ego thing, right? And they definitely had a conversation and planned it out. And they probably like, hey, I'm going on this show this week, and I'm going on PBD this week. Two big shows, and we're gonna probably get some notable clips. Let's work on it. Like, these guys are never gonna just give up on their careers and the public light and just like go away and be quiet. They're not the type. That family's not.
Well, didn't PDB hire Cuomo?
Yeah, to do I think a show on his Valuetainment network.
Right. He has his own show now, is what?
So.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought.
He was on PBD's
a few times. Yeah.
Yeah, he was. That made his controversial remarks. So the meat and potatoes of this thing is that the internet is forever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, this was one I was just thinking about this before, Cap. There's so much value in what we did at the time. We have an example for you guys, folks, of our own podcast. Again, this is the second time in the last 2 months we're using our own show as a fact check on the past, right? So there's value in normal people just doing anything like this. We went to our friend Anthony's restaurant, Pizza Saloon in Elmsford, New York. And we sat down with him during some of the worst restrictions that were going on, and we just let him roll, right, about what was going on and his whole situation there during COVID. This was when Andrew Cuomo was the governor of New York. We're going to play about 2 minutes of our friend Anthony talking. This is back from our podcast. It was back in, I think, episode 52. So it's ironic that even just the thinking back, we were covering this. That's how long we've been doing this now, that we have historical evidence ourselves that directly can refute what, a political figure is saying. So this is February of 2021. Governor Cuomo is still governor at the time.
Say, look, the biggest thing that hurts us is the capacity restrictions. That's what hurts us. When I get calls from people who want to come and do a party for, 35, 55 people, it's like, yeah, I could do it for you, but you can't have more than 10 people at your table. If your immediate family is 12, you got to have an awkward conversation.
Yeah, that was actually one of the questions I was going to ask you. Right now, what is the restrictions? What are the guidelines they're telling you guys to do?
50% capacity. Everyone has to order food because if you don't eat, COVID gets you.
Yes. And if you stand up, COVID gets you.
If you stand up, it gets you. But if you're sitting down, it doesn't.
Right now, we're safe. We're at the table. I don't have to have my mask on. Right?
Nope.
We're totally.
We are completely safe. This is a safe space here.
Yes.
This is a safe space.
But if we stand up,
that's it.
Death.
Okay.
Death right away. So 50% social distance. Staff has to wear masks. Temperature checks everybody. When there was an issue in the Elmsford area back in November, I think, I sent out my staff. They went and got tested. Anyone who didn't have insurance, we picked up the check for it. Health department came in, brought them upstairs, showed them all the records.
Really? So they came in?
Well, they came in because somebody put something out there that Pizza Saloon. So Pizza Saloon, they called it Pizza Saloon. So it was easy to figure out who did it. Everybody has COVID. The whole place has COVID. That couldn't be the first.
So fake news already off the bat.
Exactly. So I'm like, all right, cool. So the inspector came in, same guy who did my inspection in September when I took over. Nice guy, didn't break any rules. Was like, you have all your paperwork. I gave him the New York Forward plan that Cuomo made everybody put together. Showed him every employee's file. I'm like, I can't show you the full file because it's confidential. I'm like, here are all their negative tests. There's no positive results anywhere. They're all rapid and PCRs that are both double negatives. I'm like, I covered myself. Everyone's fine, and nobody's forced to work. I told the staff, listen, if you feel unsafe and you think someone may have it and you want to take off, that's your right. I'll pay you pursuant to the law. Back then, I think it was 14 days.
Society acted voluntarily. Wasn't that what he said?
Yeah.
Right.
But health inspectors came and They had to make a plan that they were forced to do. You had to be seated. None of that was voluntarily.
Yeah.
That was all under the guise of you will be fined or shut down.
Right. That we will penalize your business in some way if you don't follow the mandates, the restrictions, the rules that we are telling you. And I even remember at the time, Abart was telling us how like he would basically have to like wake up in the morning and watch TV and see what the new rules were. So these rules, and these enforcement actions were voluntary in a sense of if you could voluntarily choose to not adhere to them and you'd be ruined. So that's how voluntary they were. I guess that's the kind of type of voluntary that Cuomo was referring to here.
Yeah, a mafioso style voluntary decision.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. But just think back to it. Like if you, obviously, even these things that Abart here is referencing, capacity restrictions and
10 people at a table, remain seated. You have to order food.
These things are all going to, even if you didn't do anything wrong, by default, the policy is harming business because how does a business make money? You need more customers and you need to sell them more things and you profit off of that, right? But government, and particularly Andrew Cuomo, put in place restrictions on how much business you could do. And then if you went outside those boundaries or if someone got sick, he would penalize you if you didn't do what he wanted you to do. And he would send, like Abart was referencing there before, a health inspector and other, and we were getting into a little bit of our own, example later on. I'd seen like, the fire department being in on it as well. Like they'd send the stormtroopers after you. And another thing is the voluntary thing really gets to me as a
how dare you? How dare you, man?
As someone who's like an anarcho-capitalist, like or voluntarist, as you might say, it couldn't be the further thing from voluntarism to say what he did. Right. Even on like the psychological level, which I want to get into, which I think is fascinating here. Even I was wearing a mask. I wasn't actually wearing it, but I had it around my neck because with all of that tough talk and mandates and restrictions, he cultivated like a psychological condition in New York State, and this was around the rest of the country as well, that made other people enforce his restrictions and mandates, right? So like that's why like in that scenario, like I had like a bandana on around my neck or whatever, because like I remember thinking back to the time I'm like, we're going to do a podcast. Like, I don't want to cause any trouble and for Abart in his restaurant while he's already been through enough shit. So like, just in case, like people are going to be like, why are these guys not even eating? Right. They're here doing a fucking show and like, they're putting a risk to themselves. So like in the back of my mind, I'm like, let me just keep this here just in case to alleviate anyone else's concerns. But in a way, no, it wasn't it was actually like rules that he passed and forced with, stormtroopers. But then it was like the paranoia and the psychological aspect of things that made it involuntary in a sense. People love, like Michael Malice always says about the Soviet Union, and I've used this example a million times on this show, that it wasn't always like a knock on the door and it was the KGB coming around you up because you said something bad about the Communist Party. It was like your neighbor just ratted you out. Yeah. And then you got picked up later on or something like that. That's the sort of behavior that they cultivated during this whole thing.
Yeah. And I mean, look at like for voluntary actions, there's still people wearing masks today. There's still people driving alone in their cars with masks on today. I can see there's some situations, you get on a subway crowded full of people. You're not trying to get sick. Cool. But I mean, like up until a year ago, when I moved into the building I'm in now, there was a guy who would wear a mask in the hallways, in the elevator, and he wouldn't interact with anyone. I ran into him in the laundry room, and we came face to face. And even though he had a mask on, I could see the fear in his eyes. His eyes widened. And he literally, instead of just going into the laundry room to finish what he was doing, just turned around and ran back to his apartment. And that was a year ago. So that was 3 years after COVID. So look at the psychological effect on this voluntary action. I really believe Cuomo is coming from a standpoint where he's saying, we didn't have any way of enforcing this or whatever the hell he said. just based on what you're saying, the communist aspect of it. I have a business. I don't want to get fined. So if you don't wear a mask, you can't come to my business. Fuck you. I'm going to enforce these rules. You know what I mean? And that's why I really feel like he's sitting there trying to take like no blame for it.
He's trying to reframe it as that, like the businesses and people voluntarily chose to follow guidelines that they crafted. But
his
again,
suggestions.
It's not the case. Yeah. It's not the case. We just heard it, right? They sent health inspectors, to a location if something, sprang up that was violating or, if there was a lot of cases. I actually saw today, it was 73, 74 degrees outside. I was going to get lunch, and I saw somebody walking outside like they were going for a walk at lunchtime. Yep. And they had their hoodie on with sunglasses and one of the, the standard paper masks.
Blue masks, yeah.
Man, it's...
Yeah. I saw somebody in their car.
I know you might feel different. I feel bad. Those people are victims of the psychological aspect of this thing.
Nope. I still stand strong with the fact that one day there'll be a new world, and we won't need those people. Okay?
Oh,
I don't care. I have no sympathy for these people. Nobody should have sympathy for them, because at the end of the day, look, fine. You don't want to get sick. I don't want to get sick. When I'm around children or a group of people, I'll come home and I'll take some, extra vitamin C, and I take care of myself the best I can. But at the same time, for everything that has happened in the past, for you to not know, not seek out any information, not to just to blindly put on a mask and wear it for the next 4 years, next 5 years, next 6 years, you're dumber than a potato as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, there's a lot of time now.
Yes.
Afterwards. I still have sympathy for those people, but they were propagandized at every level by the governor and his brother. And if you watched Chris's interview on PBD, he just completely... He's supposed to be the journalist, right?
Yeah. Do you have that clip or not?
I don't. So many other people have covered it too. I don't even want to get into that depth. But he's saying how we were given bad information.
Yeah.
You're a fucking journalist. Well, you're supposed to find out what the correct information is.
That's because he's not a true journalist.
I know. We all get here. This is a two-man podcast, but at minimum, a lot of people are just assume, and this is something I think that was actually good about COVID, is a lot of people it shattered the paradigm or whatever you want to call it. People just assumed that the talking man on television
was always
a journalist and actually did look into this, and he wouldn't be telling you this if he didn't actually at least fact checked it, or he has your best interest in mind. So one of the positive things is that I think a lot of people have figured out that is not the case.
Yeah. He's even, so to go to your point where he was saying we were given bad intel, and fine, he didn't do his journalistic due diligence. Right. But me and you had the information. Me and you did... We did some research. We didn't do enough research to become news anchors on CNN,
or experts in vaccine science.
Yeah, exactly. And he's sitting there going, "We just didn't know. But no, the two do men. Look at the top of our screen. There's Skaggs with the little hat on. There's me with the captain's hat on. Us 3 years ago, over 200 something episodes ago, we knew. How did we know? And no one at CNN knew. That is a bold-faced lie. They knew 100%, and they did it anyway.
It's a lazy lie too, especially given the climate now and how those things really, like we were just saying before, those things really opened up people's eyes. It's a lazy lie to tell now. People were up in arms about this, and a lot of people are pointing this out, how blatant gaslighting the two of them are doing.
Yeah,
they haven't learned it. They have.
And don't forget,
they're not good. They weren't good liars then, and they haven't gotten better now.
Don't forget, Cuomo, along with Newsom and Whitmer, I guess, they should still be investigated for murdering all those senior citizens. And another thing that Chris Cuomo said was he takes ivermectin daily now.
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah,
literally the end of your fucking career. Joe Rogan mentioned ivermectin, and he became a right-wing extremist. This was the worst news to come out since 9/11 type of shit. And they hung, it's horse medicine. So I really wish I could have been in the room the first time Chris Cuomo was like, so you mean to tell me this isn't for horses? No, dummy, you could take it too. They've been, I mean, I know.
I don't think he's that dumb. I don't think he's that dumb.
I don't think, like I said earlier, they knew, but they decided to lie anyway. They did this knowingly.
Who's cutting the advertising checks for CNN,
Pfizer, and
all the other companies, right? And they definitely had a meeting, and they were like, "Look, this is what we're running with." You know,
they could say they had bad intel all they want, and they could say they didn't have any power to enforce anything. But when it came to that little pill, ivermectin, we weren't even allowed to say that word.
Yeah, the word. Yeah.
If we said it on a podcast
or something,
if we were to talk about it on a podcast, our podcast would be removed. If we were to share something about it on Instagram or TikTok or Twitter, we would have it removed. So for this asshole to be taking ivermectin and then admit it, even though it's 4 years later, is the biggest fucking slap in the face.
It is. It's gaslighting. It's disrespectful. It's a slap in the face. These guys don't deserve to be in the spotlight of polite society in the way that they're doing right now anymore without being thoroughly
tarred and feathered.
Yeah, in some way. Let's circle back real quick too. I think we've told this story before on the podcast, but I find it so
good old Montauk days
psychologically.
Yep.
During the pandemic, I think it was 2020 too, right? It was like the worst part of
it. What year did we go to Myrtle Beach?
That was 2020 also.
So then I'm pretty sure it was the same year.
We're the people that Andrew Cuomo was talking about that don't listen to government.
Yeah,
we throughout all 2020 we were still going places and doing our usual guys summer trips, which included Montauk, New York, which we go to every year. We'll be going back again this year, and there were restrictions. Contrary to what Andrew Cuomo was saying here in the video earlier. And there's a place that we like to go. It's kind of a party. It's a bar, a lot of music. It's called the Memory Motel. And we get to the Memory Motel, and we're told we all have to sit down at a table. We can't get up.
We're outside, mind you. Everybody's on the outside patio, which is quite large. Go ahead.
And there's about 10 of us or so, and we're told we all have to sit down. We can't get up. Can't socialize with anybody else outside of our primary table. And we're told that we need to purchase a cheese sandwich that is sitting at the center of the table. Now, this cheese sandwich is not intended to be eaten. It is just intended to be purchased for what I believe, 50 cents? I think.
Yeah, something stupid. Yeah.
And we had to purchase this cheese sandwich because the restrictions and the mandates stated that in order to sit down or to go into a restaurant, you had to purchase food. You could not just go in and have a drink or sit down at a table or go to a bar and party like we were trying to do. You had to actually purchase food. So the bar came up with a technicality, and this was a commonplace along a lot of places out in Long Island, of by default, you got to buy a cheese sandwich. It was literally 2 pieces of bread and a piece of cheese in between. It had probably been sitting out there for weeks.
Yeah.
Now, at the time, whatever, we drank, we had a good time anyway. A couple things happened. A couple people got yelled at by the bouncers for trying to get up and stuff like that. But I think back to that thing as what the fuck was that? When you think about it, right? Like I think back, that was like
what was voluntary about all that?
But I'm just saying, that's such an odd, out of the norm scenario you're making people participate in and behave in. Like they made you sit around a table and buy a 50-cent cheese sandwich that you can't eat.
Yeah.
Just so that you could sit around and talk to each other. It just does no one else feel like try to explain that to someone 3-4 years before that?
George Washington comes back from the dead and you explain to him what you did that summer. Yeah.
It's the definition of just insane behavior. Like if it wasn't for COVID. And
Dude,
I look at that and I'm like, there had to be someone in a deep dark lab somewhere. Like, how can we
his name was Andrew Fauci.
Yeah. How can we force humans into awkward, situations that they normally
prison-like states?
Not even that, into just out of the norm scenarios of ways they would behave. And let's also make sure to target some of the oldest norms and traditions about human society, which are like socializing and sitting around the table and eating food. And let's like inject this weird, odd thing they would never do otherwise. And then let's maybe study the data from that years later and see how that affects society. Now, I'm speculation here on my part, right? But I don't know. It's weird. And I don't think it was by accident. I'm just going to I'll leave it at that cheese sandwich.
None of it was by accident. I remember seeing people trying to, these are full grown adults, mind you, trying to sneak to other tables to talk to other people. And then bouncers literally coming over like we were in a cafeteria in the 3rd grade and saying, Timmy, this isn't your table. You got to go back to your lunch table. And the last straw for me that night that we are talking about was a good friend of ours was with us, Christian, and he was just like, he's not a big drinker. He didn't really care for, sitting around. And he was like, that's it. I'm out. And he stood up and a bouncer grabbed him and forced him back in the chair and said, you have to remain seated. Christian looked at him and said, oh, no, I'm leaving. And the bouncer looked at him and said, you're not leaving. You're going to remain seated in this chair. So wait a second. Now, not only can you not stand up, now we can't even, we have to stay here until what? The end of the pandemic? It made just a bouncer doing too much, as they all fucking do. It blew my mind. The second he said that, I even got up. Christian, I was like, that's it. Really, I'm out of here.
That's like a common, behavior of humans, right? Like once they get a little of power and authority, they become little tiny tyrants. Yeah. I think that was a little bit of a psychological aspect of this whole thing. That points back also to what I was saying before, kind of the way people behaved in the Soviet Union around this time. Like people would trip over themselves to rat people out and get people in trouble because he gave you like a little feeling of power over someone else.
I'll never forget in the gym, when the gym started kind of opening back up, this huge dude had to be 6'4", muscles, the guy was in football shape, basketball shape, ripped as can be, benching, 315. And then there's this young girl, maybe not even 22 yet, 120 pounds soaking wet, rail thin, maybe 5'1". This giant dude runs over to her. Who the fuck do you think you are? Where's your mask? You're going to get us. I mean, verbally attacked this girl. No, just, hey, can you put your mask on? Literally got his rocks off, screaming and yelling at someone who could never defend themselves against this man. Even if she was a black belt in judo, there was no way this chick was going to hip toss this guy by any means. And he went in. This chick ran out crying. People started yelling at the dude. We tried to get him thrown out of the gym. I never seen anything like it. But people go on these little power trips.
And these sorts of things bring out the worst in people.
Oh, yeah.
Last point on our cheese sandwich story. Again, we're at the Memory Motel. And now remembering there's a white fence that borders the Memory Motel. And Governor Cuomo, again, to the contrary, he said he had no enforcement mechanism for these restrictions. I clearly remember there was a fire marshal and a health inspector, both leaning on
police.
And police too, but I clearly remember there was a fire marshal and a health inspector leaning on the white fence, and they were watching the bouncers and the establishment to make sure that they were all following the rules. And I do remember, that they were like threatening writing up these establishments with tickets or violations or whatever at the time if the the bouncers didn't carry out the command. So now this is like the probably, I'm not sure, but probably like the East Hampton Fire Department marshal, something like that, and then like a New York State health inspector.
Yeah,
these are people who are like directly in line from Governor Andrew Cuomo at the time, who was governor. So it's just obviously a fucking phony lie what he's saying here. He's gaslighting everybody. He's trying to, I don't know,
disrespectful,
capitalize on the situation of it years later and rehabilitate his image so much. Just go away and be quiet. Like, there's no purpose for you anymore.
Wow,
you're lucky. He's lucky. He's not in prison for the nursing home thing.
Yeah,
but like, don't even push your luck. Honestly, I'm giving you advice here. Just let it go. I don't want to hear from you anymore.
My final thing on this, I wish, I just thought of it, but wasn't there a gym in Manhattan that refused to shut down?
New Jersey. I was thinking about that, but it was New Jersey. Yeah.
Summonses and they gave him tickets and he refused. And so like the first ticket was like $500 fine. And he said, no, I'm not paying it. And then it was like $1,500. And then they were talking like it's going to be $50,000, $100,000. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I wonder what the outcome was if like those tickets just went away. Did this guy go to jail? Like I wish I was able to do research, but I literally just thought of it now.
Yeah, that was good for that guy. Sometimes the like the most unsuspecting person is the one who stands up to tyranny.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen a lot of that from mixed martial artists lately.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
They're
that's
very
a topic
group.
for another day when we have Garrett back on. Okay, let's go on to your next topic, the election stuff.
So we are in the month of May. We got June, July, August, September, October. We have 5 months and 5 days left of campaign season. You guys are the first ones I've heard mention the murderous bastard. Okay. We got 5 months and 5 days until the presidential election. Nobody's campaigning. Trump's got this gag order. Trump's tied up in court. I can't say he isn't campaigning. He's at about
he just
30%.
had that huge rally in Wildwood, New Jersey. Ironically.
Yes, which came out to 100,000 people apparently. I don't know how true it is. We got to ask our buddy Alan. He was over there. But Trump's, hamstringed. He's kind of sidelined, with where he could go and what he could do, and he can't really hit the campaign trail. The Libertarian Party is stepping up. They got some campaign going, but mainstream media isn't talking about the election, isn't talking about Joe Biden running for re-election, isn't talking about anyone campaigning. I don't watch that much TV, so I don't know if there's all those hit ads going out. And Joe Biden himself isn't campaigning. He's not traveling across the country. Now, I understand the last time he ran from his basement. It was COVID. We didn't want him to get sick, this and that. But it's a whole new world. You're the most popular president in history, most votes ever. Why aren't you out there campaigning? Your main adversary is stuck in New York and cannot campaign to his maximum capacity. You should be out there running a campaign, but no one is.
Yeah.
Does that not get that
bizarre? Biden can't hide the fact that he can't run a campaign this time, but he's trying to hide it. So
yes,
they're not criticizing him for it really. You might see a couple, negative articles come out here and there. It's bizarre, man. I mean, I have my theories about this.
Let's hear them. That's what we have this show for.
This is around Trump's behavior. I don't think Trump is working in tandem with the deep state or anything crazy like that. I think my prediction, if you go back to New Year's podcast, is going to probably come true. They're going to let Trump become president, and then they're going to look to hamstring him for 4 years.
Yeah.
And my criticism of him is that he's not going to have what it takes or know exactly what to do and hire the wrong people. And it's not going to – it's going to be just like he sits in the chair and it's all better now all of a sudden. So that's still my prediction, and I think things are lining up that way.
See, Gator Pimp again. No primary coverage. It's weird. It's a very weird cycle. So
it is, yeah. It is.
I mean, even mainstream media, even if Joe Biden didn't want a campaign or he's trying to hide, and just stay out of the limelight, because we all know he's just going to fuck it up anyway. Mainstream media is not championing him. You know what I mean?
They're trying to ignore it. It's like a harm reduction strategy. It is weird. It's a different strategy. They're trying to harm reduction strategy.
Yeah. I really feel like, not to say elections are rigged and they're not safe and secure, but I feel like they think they already know the outcome here.
I don't know, man.
You know what I mean?
What's going to be the difference if things can continue plotting out the way they've gone? Like, what's the difference if Trump's president? Are they going to get to pass another, what could possibly happen? Would they pass another Ukraine bill that he supported this time, or more funding for Israel?
Yeah.
That's a whole other episode in of itself. I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole at the moment, man. But it's very weird. I think you expect the unexpected, as they say, right? And it could be a very boring unexpected, right? Like they're just doing a harm.
We're all thinking like World War III, Civil War
that's
II.
Not what it is. Like it could be just. I had a very boring prediction that they'd allow Trump to become president again, and then just hamstring him for 4 years. That could be it. That's actually a pretty good strategy, in my opinion, because if you push too hard, people tend to push back,
like they did the first time.
Yeah. So I don't know. That might be some aspect to it, man.
Yeah, it's what was it, the colonel or the general who was like, we're not even going to have a 2024 election.
McGregor. Yeah, Douglas McGregor. Yeah.
What
does that even mean, though? Like, what does he mean by that? Does he mean there's not going to physically be an election?
Or no voting, no, yeah.
Let's never go down that rabbit hole, because I think that's a little no here on YouTube. Yeah.
God forbid YouTube, but it's just so strange, and people need to wake up to this. It's not that all of a sudden tomorrow people are going to be on the campaign trail. Time is being wasted. And
good.
And to tie into the Libertarian Party, this is their opportunity.
Yeah.
This is a very big opportunity, and you'll explain shortly. They're taking this opportunity. They even have Trump coming on. They got Vivek coming on. They got RFK coming on. Whether you like Trump, whether you don't like RFK, whatever, doesn't matter. We're going to hear a clash of opinions
and ideas
take place. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Dave Smith said it's like we're throwing a Hail Mary, right? Because we're down like 50 touchdowns. What's the point anyway? At this point, you might as well just go for it.
Yeah.
I really like the idea that they're doing at the convention. Like they invited Biden too, and he of course hasn't responded, so he's probably not coming.
Well, he's not going to go because the CIA tells him that they're a group of terrorist extremists, domestic terrorists.
I think from Trump's point of view, he's looking to try and appeal to get the libertarian vote. Meanwhile, the organizers of the party and everything are looking to be like, let's get him into the building, let's try and get in his ear and have a positive influence on him and bring some notoriety to the Libertarian Party and our ideas in general. He's the most famous fucking person of all time, probably, Trump.
Well,
right. So I will say that real quick, that Angela McArdle, who is the chairperson of the party, I think she definitely deserves to be reelected as the chair again. Like, she became the chair, promised it was going to be different this time around. We're going to actually accomplish things and start moving the needle in the right direction. I think she earned that now by pulling off the event that they're having.
Yeah. And as a Trump supporter and as someone who sits around in the libertarian atmosphere, I would genuinely like to see a fair amount, a reasonable, above board, not disrespectful shit amount of pushback from the party on Trump. Make him explain some shit. No softball questions, hard-hitting questions. Look for an explanation. No pandering bullshit. Because it's easy when Trump shows up to Wildwood, New Jersey, and 100,000 people all wearing MAGA hats show up, and you could do a little dance and they're going to cheer. You know what I mean? You could do an invisible juggling act and they're all going to cheer. I want to see some genuine pushback and make him answer some hard questions.
Yeah.
And that's the guy I'm voting for. I want to see him answer some hard questions.
I'd gather to think he's not going to put himself in that position. If there's one thing I've said Trump is brilliant at, he's goddamn good at politics, right? So I think, again, he's from his angle, he's probably thinking I could come to this thing and libertarians have somewhat in common with me. I could try and win them over and gain a few votes, which is in of itself impressive. But that Donald Trump's now trying to court the libertarian vote. Yeah. That tells you something that it's actually way more, it means something now. A couple of years later, after people not even knowing what libertarianism is. Now Donald Trump's coming to it. I would gather to say that he's not going to take questions. He's going to give his stump speech, see how it plays with the crowd, and probably the most criticism that the crowd will be able to give him will be a boos
and cheers,
or maybe even a little bit of hostility if he doesn't give them a chance to question. We'll see. That will. I
don't fully know if he'll turn away from it, but we'll see. I kind of wish that was going to be televised. I'll be honest with you.
It will
see Dave Smith, Rechtenwald, the rest of everyone. The rest of everyone running for Libertarian.
Usher Smith.
Vivek and RFK all there just getting their shit kicked in. I don't know.
Again, it's good. No matter which way you want to chop it up. I'm not, some of these libertarians think it's not good. I don't understand how you think it's not good.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, no, it's gonna bring. See, that's the problem with the Libertarian Party.
That's okay. We're changing. Those people are going on the back burner now.
Yeah,
people who actually want to get shit done are the ones in charge now, and they actually are getting shit done a little bit at a time.
And I don't see how it's going to be a bad move. Maybe Trump might get a few votes away from the Libertarian Party, but the light that comes with Trump that is going to shine on the party is going to be way more important than anything that takes place.
Yeah. Like even from that aspect. Oh no, Donald Trump. First of all, I don't even believe that he's going to come and win over the most principled voter base that exists, right? But what's the difference? We're realistic this time, right?
Yeah.
We know that the Libertarian candidate is not going to win, and he's basically running a messaging campaign. So what's the difference? You're going to take votes away from a candidate who's not going to win anyway. Even that, I don't foresee that happening. I'm probably going to end up voting for a libertarian candidate myself, just because I'm not happy with the way Trump is going. It remains to be seen. We'll talk about it when the time gets closer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it happening. I just don't.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on that, or you want to move on to the fun stuff?
No.
We got about 15 minutes left, plus 2 weeks of the week, so I want to get it all.
There we go. Let's do it.
All in.
Yeah. So, well, we got.
This is your idea. Go ahead. Yeah.
But Trump is Tiger King. That's fantastic. Too bad. What was Tiger King's name? He tried running for president, and Trump should have pardoned him before he got out. But he is actually a very bad criminal.
I'm blanking too on the Tiger King's name. Joe.
Anyway,
right, Joe.
So,
the roast of Tom Brady.
Yeah, if you guys haven't known, Netflix came out with a roast of good old Tom Brady. Eli Manning didn't want to go because he roasted him twice already, and he didn't want to do it for a third time.
Oh, you stole my tweet of the week, damn it! That was the one that I added in at the beginning while we were doing the intro too.
And so Skaggs and I are very big fans of comedy, and in the past several years, comedy was on life support. Literally, if they could have killed Dave Chappelle for his Netflix specials, they would have executed him.
Try to kill Dave Chappelle.
Yeah.
Remember the guy ran on the stage and tried to
that's right.
Yeah,
that's right. And for years, comedians and actors could have this cancellation take place on them, and they could be canceled. And I think now, things are changing. The climate of comedy and all this stuff is changing. They used, everybody got on stage and called Gronk a retard.
Yeah, we're going to
3 years ago.
From it, yeah.
2-3 years ago, you would have been canceled for using just that word. They would have probably tried to debank you if they could. Mm-hmm. And now here is athletes, comedians, and celebrities using no words with no fear of being canceled, because I think cancel culture went so far that it drove itself to extinction. It got so crazy there was no way it could sustain itself. Everything was a cancelable offense.
Yeah. So I mean, I agree with most of what you're saying. I will kind of disagree that I don't think stand-up comedy went away or was going away or anything. I think it was
being dumbed down.
I don't know if I agree with that. Like Joey Diaz, Joe Rogan, Tony Hinchcliffe, all these guys were still doing their thing. Joe Rogan has now kind of created his own environment, even in Austin, Texas.
Well,
I don't necessarily agree that it was going away. I think it was just surviving the times, as best as it could, like the rest of us were through a pretty crazy time. But I do agree with that things are changing. Things seem to have accelerated. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. My only pushback is, Joe Rogan is almost too big to be canceled. The one thing we found out about cancel culture is if cancel culture came to your door and said, we're canceling you, and you said, no, you're not, and you just continued doing what you're doing, shockingly, you weren't ever canceled.
There's a couple other indicators of what you're saying is true. Like Shane Gillis went on to host an episode of Saturday Night Live,
and he got canceled immediately.
Originally, a long time ago, he was supposed to be hosting Saturday Night Live, and he got canceled. I think because he said he was jokes.
He was going to be a comedian on SNL. I think he was going to be a recurring character on SNL, and he got canceled immediately. Yeah.
So there are examples of definitely, things are changing. The fact that the roast was on Netflix was super woke and controlled in every which way over the past couple of years, and now it's putting out super offensive content. Is in of itself, it's a win.
Change the culture.
Right. This is a culture war battle. I also just think like stand-up comedy is important. It's directly tied to the concept of the First Amendment, right? Like it's a uniquely American thing, stand-up comedy. Like we kind of invented it now. Like there was like court jesters and things like that back in the day, but they kind of had like permission to make fun of things by the king. And if the
king got offended, he'd kill him.
But so I love the fact that this thing that's kind of a product of the First Amendment is thriving and getting back to its roots.
Yeah.
Let's say lately. So I got 2 clips. I got I forget her name here.
Nikki Glaser.
Nikki Glaser.
Do you have the whole thing? Because she was the best comedian. She tore up the entire show.
This was impressive. I have 1 minute and 24. It might be a little bit too long to play the whole thing, but yeah. So I got this and Tony Hinchcliffe. Let's just have some fun here, folks, and laugh and talk about these. Good, man. And the part which you said before, people are going to call me a cum guzzling slut. Oh, they did. Yeah. Everyone else spent the whole time, just making fun of her and just, calling, referring to her in the most sexist, offensive ways you possibly could.
Yes.
And this was all beautifully all over Netflix.
Who else do we got? You got Kill Tony.
Yeah, sorry, I was gonna let you chime in there, but
no. She did a phenomenal job. She tore everybody apart, but this was also good. He went down the line and just chewed up everybody.
This is Tony
Schultz. I'm glad you took a break from watching.
I want to pause for that one right there because that is like an industry quota / standard. I think you get some.
They had a black, gay, and obese on.
Yeah. So that's fucking amazing.
Also said, Kim, I know you're so worried to be here because your kids are home with their father. Talking about Kanye.
Jesus, man.
But they had Jew jokes, gay jokes, retard jokes, sexist jokes, black jokes, everything. And I really just feel like a few years ago, if Julius Edelman came out and started his spiel with Kevin Hart's So Black, or Gronk saying I've taken bigger and blacker shits than you, that would have been it for their career. ESPN would have fired him.
I don't know if that would have been it for their career, but I definitely think that it would not have been on Netflix.
Yeah.
Right. And it probably maybe would have had some impacts in terms of like where they could have gone and what they could have did. But I think the incentive structure is changing, as we've said, and the woke stuff is becoming extremely unpopular, and it's now becoming profitable to just kind of be normal and make jokes. And like, you could watch that, and you could get like everybody knows they're just there to make jokes. No one's taking it personally and being offended. Although I will say, I still have like something inside me when I watch a bunch of celebrities in Los Angeles get together. I'm still somewhat repulsed by it.
Yeah.
Although I did
how are we worshiping the devil today? Yeah.
Yeah. Like I enjoyed it, but inside me, something is broken forever when it comes to these people. Although these are a little bit different because they're comedians. So
we look behind the curtain and there is no go back. Yep.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on the roast of Tom Brady?
The roast was great. There was a little conspiracy theory of, Tom getting all upset with Jeff, whatever.
Oh, yeah, that was interesting. With the owner,
with Robert Kraft. Yeah. Robert Kraft got in trouble for going to a massage parlor that gives happy endings.
Yeah.
And then they made a joke that Tom Brady had to jerk him off to become the star quarterback. And Tom stood up and was like, "Don't say that shit again." And I mean, if you just kept your mouth shut, the joke would have went on and nobody would have ever talked about it again. But now it's been highlighted, and everything that, Diddy did to make, literally fucking these young rappers and then videotaping it and throwing a shitty contract on the table saying, sign it, or or everybody in the hood's going to find out that you slept with 3 dudes at one time. And they all blew your asshole out. You know what I mean? Like, could there be some humiliation aspect in the NFL? I doubt it, but maybe. Look how famous Tom Brady is. But if he just kept his mouth shut, there would have been zero speculation.
Yeah, I don't know. Was he just trying to be funny and by saying, don't say that again? Or was it, he took everything else in pretty good stride, even the million comments about his ex-wife.
Yeah.
Right. But that was beyond the pale to mention. I don't know. It was bizarre.
Yeah.
And I think everybody saw it. It was right there. It was weird.
The funny thing is Nikki Glaser did a interview on some podcast. I don't know. It wasn't ours, so it doesn't matter. That after the show and everybody went backstage, Tom said thank you and goodbye. She ran into him and he was like, yeah, good luck with your career and I'll talk to you. And she was like, okay, I'm never going to be able to speak or see this man ever again. That's it. And she was like, he left. He didn't go to the after party. She was saying he was physically shooken by the end of it. On stage and you're drinking, it's all funny and the cameras are on and you're laughing. But I was thinking to myself, Tom Brady's the GOAT. I admit, as a Giants fan, he's the GOAT. Thank God for Eli Manning stopping him from having 10 rings or 9 rings or whatever the hell it would be. I loved watching every second of that, but he is the best quarterback ever. But then he goes home to that big old house where he has all his nice clothes and all his Super Bowl rings, and he sits in that chair by himself and lets the darkness come up.
Probably.
Was it,
especially after a night like that where people just chewed him out for 2 hours?
Was it all worth it, losing your wife, even though she's a cheating whore?
Yeah.
Your kids don't live with you
now.
What? Yeah.
You can say that now.
Losing your kids, they don't live with him. He sees them. He doesn't have 0 custody over him. But I don't think 7 Super Bowl rings are going to fill that hole, pal.
Yeah, this is something I've learned over the past few years, especially family and children are the meaning of life, and they are the most important things you could do. I couldn't trade my kids for 10 Super Bowl rings.
Yeah.
If that's the case. So, yeah, that's a good point. Maybe that has something to do with it.
He just went home and sat in the darkness and cried.
Which is ironic because he could have gotten some camaraderie out of sticking around and hanging out, making friends with people and making light of the situation. Oh, that's part of being roasted, dude. You're being on for 2 straight hours. Not everybody, even the GOAT, who's got to be an egomaniac, to some extent. It probably burns him a little bit to be made fun of for 2 hours, even though he won't admit it.
I mean, he knew, there's some things he knew. He knew they were going to talk about Eli Manning and the Giants.
Right.
They knew they were going to talk about his looks and all this stuff. But there was a couple of jokes where they were you could lose, not only do you lose all your money in Bitcoin, you lost your family. And he was literally taken back. He didn't think
see the moment where his heart splits in half. Yeah. All right, let's move on and end the show here with our tweets of the week. It's been a while. We've been sitting on a couple, and
mine are pretty old now at this point. But let's see what we got.
Let's see. Let's share them. So I like I was saying before, this was the I was making an adjustment to my tweets of the week. So it was Eli Manning, and he said, I thought about attending the roast of Tom Brady last night, but I did not want to roast him for a 3rd time. Eli Manning is fucking funny, dude.
Yep.
Didn't you go to the Giants town hall when we had season tickets and see him give that speech, or was that maybe some of our other brothers?
No, I went to the ticker tape parade, and I was at City Hall when they gave the Giants the key to the city in 2000.
Okay. So I didn't go, but friends of ours went to a Giants town hall when we had season tickets, and Eli Manning was there, and he got to talk to the crowd, and they were like, man, Eli Manning is a real ball breaker type locker room jester. But he doesn't really portray that at the time, especially when he's still playing. He didn't really ever portray that in his public persona or his persona in the media. He was very stoic and serious and about his business. But then people no, he's the guy who will, put icy hot in your jockstrap where you're not around, So it's funny. He's definitely a really funny dude.
Yeah.
And most people don't, I think, appreciate that or even know that about Eli Manning. All right. You got 3. I got 4. So we'll go over to yours next. Oh, I got to log into Instagram.
Son of a bitch.
Oh, man.
All right, let me.
I guess
I'll pull it up on my phone and I'll just read it. Okay. Hold on a second, everybody. Sorry.
Oh, you got 2 Instagram ones.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Do that. I might try to log in the meantime while we're waiting here.
Okay. So Instagram.
I got to log in.
Oh, no, this was the one that we showed the previous week where the 2 girls were protesting. And they're like, okay. I don't even know why I'm here.
Okay. Why do you even have to log in to watch a reel? What kind of social media companies do? You don't want people to see your product?
Okay, so the second Instagram one is
I can't see this one either.
Oh,
okay, I can't see this one. Okay, actually, you know what though? Hang on, I got to change the screen share here, otherwise I'm not gonna be able to hear.
Murphy.
Yep, it's technology. It also still wants me to log in. We always complain about we always complain about social media and like the political aspect of things. But one of the things I think that social media does not get enough criticism for is that they're not very like well-made, user-friendly, well-operating websites. You're literally seeing an example of that right now.
I had
for like the
an
most
Instagram meltdown earlier this week.
It's the most profitable commodity. Your data. They've surpassed oil. The social media companies, right? This is their bread and butter. This is everything they do. They live for making website stuff, and they can't get it right still. Facebook, particularly, is an awful website. My God, it's not functional. It's awful. So let's stop complaining about it. Let's play this one.
Still,
look at this. I gotta push this button even here.
Nugget, no fact check. Someone claims their male friend is on their period. No fact check. The president claims that a bloodthirsty tribe feasted on the flesh of their uncle. No fact check. Someone claims that a pancake isn't a gender. Fact check. The media has written this off as a simple misstatement. A misstatement is getting somebody's name wrong. A misstatement is confusing the date of an event. You know what's not a misstatement? Claiming a family member was eaten by savages. You know what else must have been misstatements? Lowering taxes, avoiding war, lowering gas prices, curbing inflation, creating jobs, and building back better? That's a lot of misstatements. Kind of seems like this guy's just a liar. Also, shout out New Guinea. This idiot doesn't represent all of us. Have a good one.
Still Tom McDonald there, huh?
Yes. So that was back when Joe Biden, for some reason, at a press conference, said that his uncle was eaten by cannibals, and the story was just pushed under the rug. Trump made a joke one day about bleach, and it is still spoken about today. Meanwhile, this old fucking retard can literally go out there and say he had family members eaten by cannibals, and no one bats an eyelash anymore.
A worthy story of investigating, at the least, you'd think, right? I mean, talking about the president of the United States here, quite the comment. But I think, as has been proven over the years, the corporate press, they are stenographers for the regime, not journalists, as we were referring
led to believe.
All right, got a couple more. Let's get through them here. This one is from the Gun Violence Archive. This one's getting shared for the community note. It says the U.S. has witnessed at least 427 accidental, unintentional/negligent shootings so far in 2024, an approximate average of 3.75 per day. Readers added context they thought people might want to know. Given that there are approximately 393 million privately owned firearms in the United States, 427 accidental/negligent shootings, or to put it another way, accidental/negligent discharges of 427 firearms represents 0.0001% of all firearms owned in the United States.
Isn't it funny how that works out?
Yeah, just how the corporate press is factual, but they're not truthful. As Michael Malice would say, they just give you some stats that sound bad, and they frame it in a negative way. But then if you just get some more context, you're like, oh,
for the sake of this is only done. This is only done to push an agenda. That's it.
It's also like the way it's framed, unintentional/negligent shootings. It makes it sound like people are unintentionally shooting actual other humans, when it's most likely like you're cleaning your gun, you forgot, you're an idiot, and you forgot there was one in the chamber, and while you're cleaning your gun goes off and it goes into like your wall. Yeah. And given that there's 400 million fucking guns in the country, that's a pretty good ratio. I'm surprised. That's only happened 427 times.
Yeah,
there's a lot of idiots. There's a lot of
stupid people. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, that's actually a testament to gun culture in America. How safe we are.
Yeah.
All right, let's go on to your last one.
Is it another Instagram? It's a TikTok.
Oh, hold on. You're throwing me for a loop here.
I'm making you work for it this time.
You're making me work for it. Yeah. So there is a thing here with StreamYard where if we're going to share audio, I have to share it a specific way, and I then can't. Let's bring that back up. I then can't just go on from one thing to another. Like I can't just share the whole window. I have to like go. Okay.
So about 10 to 15,000 a day.
I have to literally, if we're gonna share audio, I have to like literally push a button each time that says like share the next tab, share the next tab, share instead of just like moving around freely. Very annoying. All right, so let me put this as full screen.
How many illegals are coming across the border every day?
A lot.
So about 10 to 15,000 a day. Do you think Joe Biden?
They're all going to vote Dem.
You're okay? Can you say that again?
The illegals? Well, illegals. Yeah, they're coming here. They're going to vote Democrat, and we're going to win.
How many illegals?
I appreciate that he's just leaning into being a villain.
See, a part of me feels like this is satire and gaslighting because the guy had a pretty big smirk on at the end. But man, to actually believe that and be okay with that is goddamn lunacy.
Yeah, that guy might work for Turning Point USA. Like he might be a plant. Yeah, Charlie Kirk put in there just to make a viral video. Like that's how on the nose that is.
It's almost so crazy that I don't believe it's actually real.
Yeah, I agree with you there. All right, now let's do the sharing all over again.
Yeah,
hold on.
Sorry, Doom Nation.
Okay,
I really fucked this one.
So no, it's okay. So you see, like when I'm sharing like this, where we can move from one page to another, it's easy. But if I do it this way, you guys won't be able to hear any audio coming through on that end, which is very dumb. Streamer, you guys step your game up there and make the interface a little bit more user friendly.
Figure it out. All
right, so this one's from Dave DeCamp from Anti-War. He works for antiwar.com. He's a writer there. He says, the woke mind virus is when you think you're entitled to someone else's home based on a 3,000-year-old land claim of people you're not even a descendant of. And then when people say what you're doing is wrong, you call them a racist. What does that sound like to you?
What do you mean?
What is he referring to?
Are you talking about the
it's
squatters?
A joke. No, it's a joke, but like, who is he referencing? What is he referring to? I'll read it again.
Yeah.
The woke mind virus is when you think you're entitled to someone else's home based on a 3,000-year-old land claim of people you're not even a descendant of. And then when people say what you're doing is wrong, you call them a racist.
Oh, yeah, they're being racist based on this old land claim.
Yeah, but what he's referring to is guys like Ben Shapiro, like hardcore Israeli Zionists.
Oh, I didn't even think of Israel and
make
all that.
Their bones on being like, oh, the woke stuff is bad. But then when you think about it, they're just doing, we've made this point a million times.
Yeah.
They're just doing the same thing the woke people do and say all the time, just in reverse. And then they're saying the woke stuff is bad. So I've seen a lot of people make that point lately that like the Zionists are like the original wokesters, or like they're the woke taken to like the maximum worst aspect of things. And it's ironic that they seem to be, or at least like the Ben Shapiro types. No. Like the Ben Shapiro types seem to be like the largest critics of like woke behavior, but then they act like woke.
What's the iron law of woke projection?
Yeah, right. But
just apply it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because you're not a
continue
wokester,
applying it. Yeah.
Yeah. Just because you're not a wokester doesn't mean you're not projecting your own woke ideologies.
Yep. All right. Last tweet of the week, and then we'll wrap it up. CBS News.
Fuck is that?
You deserve a treat. And this spring, Mother Nature is providing a seemingly endless supply. Here are some cicada recipes to try. You will eat the bugs. It's a conspiracy theory, a right-wing one at that. No one is ever telling you to eat the bugs or that you're going to eat the bugs. Well, apparently not. Apparently CBS News is not only encouraging you to eat the bugs, but they have a cookbook about how to cook them up, and they're posting it there. It was on May 10th.
Fucking pathetic. Apparently in like May 17th is when the cicadas come. So that's right around the corner.
They say that every year. I've never seen this swarm.
I remember them when I was kids, but I don't.
I remember them, but they make it out to be like there's a swarm and it's going to be the end of the world. We're going to be covered in cicadas. I've never seen
any talking point. Circle back to what we started with talking about COVID. Any talking point worth talking about, we have to add a fear element to it because fear sells.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. It doesn't even matter how pointless or dumb the topic is. Cicadas. I've been kind of hoping the past couple of years there was a lot of cicadas so I could feed my chickens for free.
Yeah, there you go.
They love cicadas. They'll eat them up, but I haven't seen anything.
Yeah.
So
the government will probably try and tax you for feeding your chickens for free.
All right, wrap it up.
All right, Doom Nation, it's been another great episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Gator Pimp and Jeezy, thank you for interacting with us. We appreciate it. Everybody who's listening, always feel free to chime in. We enjoy making the connections and all that.
If you listeners start watching live and start commenting more often, Captain and I will perhaps craft a comment segment instead, where like we'll read the comments at a certain point if you want to chime in on something. We're also going live on Rumble now, so YouTube, Twitter on my personal account, Skags89, and now Rumble, 2 Doom Men Podcast. So those are the 3 places we'll be going live.
There we go. All right, Doom Nation, thank you guys so much as always. We appreciate it. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Adios, everyone.